Hey gamers, welcome to a video. I want to talk about Goodbye Eri. There will be spoilers in this video. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it because this was a fantastic read. This is done by Fujimoto. It's a one-shot of his. And if you don't know, Fujimoto also did Chainsaw Man, which is also pretty good. Highly recommend that as well, and same with Look Back. But Goodbye Eri was something I wanted to read because I heard this was going to get an anime adaptation. I just have to say, uh, I, I have not felt this way about media in a while. Like, there's a few things that I feel this way about, and Goodbye Eri kind of taps into that because when I got to the end, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm like really conflicted on if I love the ending or I hated it. And I really mean that in a good way, like in a very positive way, because I do like that the story just ends that way, where you're just kind of thinking about it a little bit more. It's just you know. I don't know if I'm overthinking the ending or if I'm not thinking enough or if I'm getting the point or if I'm not getting the point. Like it kind of puts me in a very like tough place, and I really like that. I really like that it's not something so straightforward. And to compare the ending to the story to the ending of the main character's first documentary about his mom, it makes it more like, I'm thinking about it more because I read it last night and I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know. I was like, I'll sleep on it. Maybe I'll come to a determination in the morning or something. And I'm still wrestling with my thoughts with this. The beginning of it, again, you listen to you start reading it and you wouldn't think that this would be a very like juicy piece of like a juicy story that's gonna make you think. Like you just think it's gonna be just an emotional story. Like, okay, like he's filming his mom that's dying, and that's that, and then he wasn't there when she died. He just kind of stayed in the car and then added an explosion. Like he didn't want to acknowledge his mom's death in that way, and like that already is like, you're already kind of like feeling bad, like damn, like you know he couldn't embrace that. And then he meets like he was about to commit suicide. He meets Eri because during this time as well, I kind of jumped ahead with students. The students who watched this movie was like, I can't believe you did that. Your mom asks you to make a movie and you end it with her dying in an explosion. Like, don't you think that's a little tasteless? And you kind of, when I was reading this, I was thinking like, well, he's making a documentary that he made into like a different kind of movie, and I kind of feel like this is another way to kind of cope, or I don't, maybe not cope is the right word. I mean, mourn, I guess. Uh, the death of someone. Like you just think it's something so like mundane, or just like, oh, gotta do something explosive or whatever to kind of like process it. I mean, you don't know how it's gonna be portrayed. So I was thinking like maybe it's like this is how he processes death. Maybe that's why he did that. Uh, but nobody really like understood his vision and kind of like put him down, which rightfully so, because it is a very like uh ridiculous ending to a very like tragic event in someone's life, right? So it makes sense on all those fronts. As he's about to commit suicide, he meets Eri, which then Eri gives him a different perspective, where it's like where she tells him like, all these people are idiots. They didn't understand the vision, and they didn't. And you should actually make more movies. Like you should make another movie. We're gonna watch all these movies, and then you're gonna start making a movie as well, and we're gonna see what happens. And I kind of liked this dynamic where it kind of like took, I don't want to say pause, but it kind of just took that event and said, okay, well, why don't we just focus on making movies? Like, we could go back to that eventually, but let's just focus on this. And it kind of was a good distraction from what just happened, basically. Uh, and it was clearly to kind of make you feel a connection between Eri and the main character. I kind of forgot it. Yuta was his name. Uh, so as this is going on, he decides I'm gonna make a movie. Like he wants to make a fantasy movie that's focusing on Eri, and he says, "Well, you're gonna be a vampire, and then we're gonna like," and you talk about how you're gonna die and all the, this and that. Then in the same, as they're filming it, like it goes to the scene where they're talking with his dad, and his dad's like telling Ari that she should leave him alone and this and that, and then you find out, oh, that was part of the movie. Like he says, cut and scene, and I'm just thinking like I'm already questioning the narrative a little bit, like the narrator of the story, because at the beginning it gives you a very low stakes betrayal where it's like, oh yeah, he ends the documentary on a hospital explosion, and that was part of the movie. Like you already been betrayed on that level, but that's like a low stakes kind of like betrayal. It's like, okay, like, whatever. uh the way that they transitioned to this was so honest that you almost think it's like genuine, and then they tell you, okay, end scene, and you're like, okay, like that's also fake, all right. And then, after that, Eri tells Yuta that, well, she's actually dying, and is it okay to actually make that movie now or whatever. And he's like, you know, confused and upset about that, because it's like, it kind of like, I don't say triggers him, but it kind of like pokes deep into him, into like what he did at the beginning, and he doesn't know how to process it. The dad tells him that like, I think you should do it because she's telling you to remember her the way that like you want to remember her or whatever. So he kind of decides to continue doing it, and it's kind of like a heartful scenario. But then it gets even more interesting, because after that, like after you accept that, it ends with this conversation where she's like, "Yeah, I want to see those kids like bawl their eyes out or something like that." Like, kind of tells him like why she wanted to help him in the first place, and that's kind of like the ending panel for that. And you're just like, okay, like, uh, that's that. But then right after that, another betrayal where the character's like, "Yeah, you're not his boyfriend, right? Like she wasn't your girlfriend." It's like, no, she's no, we weren't like that. I asked her and she turned me down. Okay, but you realize that she was like a jerk, right? She was self centered. She was an asshole, and this. And it's like, oh yeah, I get that, but like I cut that stuff out because I figured she'd want to be remembered for this or whatever. And at that point, I was thinking like, this is a good, poignant commentary on the fact that movies are very emotional pieces of art. Like they're not like just you're telling a story, and that it's not like a news broadcast. Like you're kind of like getting emotions involved with that. And I kind of like, as I'm talking about this, I am going back to the beginning, and I'm thinking like the audience being very upset that that documentary ends with the explosion, and then being upset about that. You feel that like multiple times in Goodbye Eri. Like it is so unique into that. Like I'm thinking about this. Like, yeah, you're going through these betrayals multiple times within the story itself, and it's like, but at the same time, like the students who are upset, like sure you can agree with them, but it's a very one-dimensional level of like, this is stupid. I can't believe you did that. But then when you're reading this and going through the same kind of thing, you're just like, you're more engaged with it. And I think that's like it's such a I don't want to say it's a paradox, but it's like a snake eating its own tail kind of uh commentary, because you're just kind of like stuck in this loop of like of processing what this story's about. So like that's like one layer of that. Then if it like goes through his life, he says he found a family, he got into a car accident, his family died, he's the only survivor. So this dude is like surrounded by like sad shit, like trauma, right? But then yet again, the story sets you up to be betrayed. So it goes to the part he's like, I'm just gonna commit suicide in the place that where it all began, basically, or whatever has the most emotional weight to him. He goes where he was watching all those movies with Eri. So you're already like, oh damn. He sees Eri there. Now, of course, you're like, she died, right? Like she didn't survive. This is so it must be like a hallucination. And you're thinking like this is some artistic thing, like oh yeah, like because you could do that. But then she like tells him, "I'm a vampire. I'm a real vampire. The Eri you knew like was a personality that died. But if the heart continues, like I'm gonna keep living. It's just you're meeting a new person every time." But the old Eri left a note for her to kind of watch this movie and see that whatever. And it was like at this point, I almost thought what was gonna end up being was like this love story between him and Eri, and this was gonna be like, you know, a thing that was gonna become something. But then, then he leaves saying, "Well, saying goodbye to her," like, and he said that I will never see her again, and all this. And I was like, Okay, like, I guess I get it. I mean, she is an actual vampire, I guess." And then it ends with the building exploding, and I'm so like just running my gears on that ending. Like I don't know what was real. Like it makes me question the narrative and the credibility because we have seen so much bullshit in this story multiple times that I don't know. Like and this is what I mean when I said I either love it or I hate it. I either love it for the in the sense that like uh uh I that like it's making me think in this kind of way, like it's making me like kind of appreciate the journey and all this stuff that's going on. Uh or whatever. Or I hate it because it's like am I supposed to interpret this as fake? Like where does it end? Like I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this ending completely. And I think that's what makes Goodbye Eri a very memorable piece from Fujimoto. Like Look Back was a very like uh s- somewhat personal in the sense that it's very relatable on into what the subject matter was. But this is it's like a very unique look on death, on impact of movies. Like it really seems like these one shots have a lot of like personal themes and stories that Fujimoto's been trying to convey. Like I've been loving Chainsaw Man's latest arc. I know it's very divisive, and a lot of people are like whatever on it. I like it. I mean, there's issues with the pacing. Some things kind of go really quickly, but I don't mind. Like if the ride is interesting and fun, I don't care how fast or slow it is. Like I'm just all for that because it's I don't know where it's gonna go. I like that it feels very improv almost, and it has a lot of interesting stuff going on. Uh, in its own way. But Chainsaw Man also doesn't seem to have as much of a the inner thinking like thought process or personal themes as like Look Back or Goodbye Eri have. I think Goodbye Eri takes like a very standard story and adds such bizarre twists and turns that you kind of think more into what you're reading. Like what was she really a vampire? What was she even there? Maybe it like even like you want to take it in another silly way that maybe the explosion is just symbolizing that he committed suicide. Maybe, but it's such a bizarre turn of events, and the story doesn't really explain what the ending was, and I love it for that. I love that it doesn't like go the extra mile to explain what you watch. It's like did this really happen? Was she really a vampire? Like what part was the movie and what part wasn't the movie? Like they don't even like even when she died and they go to the school like you I feel you could even argue that uh it was still part of the movie. Like it's kind of hard to really know what part of that ends almost. I just think it's a very interesting piece from Fujimoto that it does feel intrinsically uh like a lie. Like the whole thing just lied to you, and that's what was great about it. Like it lets you multiple times, and then even after all those times that the narrative has lied to you, you're still kind of debating, was the ending of the actual story also a lie, or is it actually like genuine? Like at no point does Goodbye Eri feel genuine with what it's saying with the characters, or how the characters have acted with each other. Like there's nothing genuine about it, and that's the point. Like I think that's what I hate about it is I still feel like I don't know these characters. I still don't know Yuta as a character to a degree. I don't know Eri. I don't. Was she really a vampire or anything like that? But I love it for the fact that it has made me just sit there and think about what I was reading. Like, I don't know how far to take the ending and how literal to take it, and I think that's what was so beautiful about Goodbye Eri. I think it's if you were to ask me like which one I like more between Look Back and Goodbye Eri, I can't tell you. Like I I almost thought when I was reading Goodbye Eri that I was gonna like Look Back more. But after reading Goodbye Eri, it's like I don't know. Goodbye Eri was also really good. Like it's so different in it. And I think like, I kind of feel like Fujimoto is gonna be a very unique uh manga artist and manga author, mangaka. That word always sounds weird when I say it, but uh uh I feel he's gonna be like, nobody's gonna make stuff like him once he leaves, right? Because the stuff he's putting out is so unique. Like even Chainsaw Man, even at its lowest point, I think there's something there to actually be like engaged with. I know a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people want to roll their eyes and say that Chainsaw Man's not that deep, but I do think there is a lot of like thoughtful commentary being done in Chainsaw Man about, uh, you know, war and all this other stuff. Like it's kind of all there in Chainsaw Man, both in the earlier arcs and in the current arc. Uh, but I think that like these are themes that anyone could kind of tackle and like kind of you know think about. But Goodbye Eri and Look Back kind of like it has such a unique way of just throwing these ideas out and showing a lot of things in a lot of ways. Like I feel like Goodbye Eri is gonna get another wave of analysis because I saw obviously with YouTube you see one video and the algorithm is gonna shove you into 1,000 different videos. I watched one video discussing Look Back, and then like right after that, I saw a video that said like Look Back wants you to stop doing art or whatever, and I thought this was like a bad analysis of Look Back. But then I watched it, and it was actually an interesting look at it. It's like, oh, actually, it's like praising this, but it's also kind of telling you the expectations and like the more critical side of that field too. Like it was a different look at that. And Goodbye Area things get another wave of this like multiple interpretation of it, and these betrayals in the narrative, they don't feel uh half baked or even contrived. Like, I feel some people may feel the vampire twist is out of nowhere or whatever, but I think it works because you don't know if the ending is genuine or not. You can't really argue the legitimacy of Eri being a vampire when the story has went out of its way to kind of like throw curveballs at you. It seems very intentional. Like it doesn't seem like, oh, he did this just to think whatever, or you would never guess Arya was a real vampire. But it's like, how do you know she was? Like she they didn't give her silly eyes. She didn't have like sharp canines or whatever. Like there was no reason for you to really think she was. And then for the character to say, "Yeah, I'm a vampire," you think that like that's being honest? You think maybe she was? Like it's very hard to really determine the genuine nature of Goodbye Eri, and I think that's what makes it a very fantastic story. And I think It's really up there to the point where the commentary where he keeps saying, "Yeah, I keep editing the story and I keep changing it, and I don't know why. Like, I'm not even gonna show it to anyone." And then it ends with him saying, "I knew what was missing. I needed to make it a fantasy." And then it ends with him with the building exploding. Like, and I can't help but think that that's this meta commentary by Fujimoto saying like kind of like saying, "I don't know how to end this. Uh, it's missing something." And it ends like there, and it ends where it began, basically. And so it's a very unique story, and I highly recommend it. If you can. Goodbye Eri is a great story. I loved it. I loved reading it, and I can't wait to watch when it gets adapted into a movie. It was a fantastic story. Uh, I. I can't even rate it. I'm just gonna be honest. I try to rate all the stuff I watch. I cannot rate Goodbye Eri. It's just it would be a disservice to just put a number on that story because I really it's such an ambiguous story. It's great. I love it. It's a fantastic story. Like I just kept thinking about it, and even the part where like I was reading it, I was like, oh, she's gonna say she's gonna die, right? She's gonna have some terminal disease or whatever, and then like when they like had that, I was like, I fucking knew it. But then it was like, well, she's a vampire. It's like I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. It's such a great story that there's all these layers to it, and the characters are I like the characters. I mean, as much as how little I think I know of them, I still like them. Goodbye Eri, I feel is the most unconventional uh story that I have seen. Like it just does stuff that you wouldn't expect it to. So I'm all for it. I'm all for Goodbye Eri. It's a great story. I highly recommend reading it. That's where I'm gonna leave it. Uh, yeah, I highly recommend it. Goodbye Eri is fantastic. It's brilliant. Uh, bye.